As we know, today is the feast of St. Patrick, and there's a lot more to him and this day than just wearing green. Joining us now is Dr. Matthew Bunson, executive editor and Washington bureau chief for EWTN News. He is also the co-author of our Sunday Visitors Encyclopedia of Saints, which he wrote with his mother. Dr. Bunson, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to talk with you. What can you tell us about the life of St. Patrick? I know a lot of people associate him with driving out the snakes from Ireland, but there is a lot more to him.
Well, the simple observation that you just made, that he drove the snakes out of Ireland, is just one of countless legends that are attached to his name. Great pious legends, stories of his work as a saint, as a missionary, but in a way they sort of eclipse the remarkable aspects of his life. He was born in Roman Britain, and at around the age of 16 was captured by pirates and taken to Ireland as a slave. There he spent 6 years as a slave, a very unpleasant existence, but it was also during that time that he underwent a very profound spiritual conversion, managed to escape, went back to Roman Britain, and was called to the priesthood. And what did he do? He went back to Ireland as a bishop. He's not the first bishop in Ireland. That honor traditionally goes to Palladius. But from around 431, he began the systematic evangelization of Ireland. And two things are worth mentioning in terms of that. The first was the way that he was able to preach the Christian faith, the Catholic faith, to the Irish pagan people in a way that they could understand and take to heart. And that's where so many of the great legends come in. For example, the shamrock, the story of that, where he helped teach them about the Trinity. But the other aspect was, by the time of his death, he had established dioceses, he had established monasteries, and he had a native clergy that was able to follow him. So all of the legends are wonderful, they're incredible, but they really don't do justice to the fact that this one figure gave us Irish Catholicism, the great legacy of faith that followed him.
Yeah, it is so amazing. You mentioned the shamrock, and I was going to ask you about that. Can you talk a little bit more about that, the significance of it?
Well, what he was doing was finding ways, according to tradition, to teach things like the Trinity in language and cultural idioms that the Celtic people could understand. So he plucked the shamrock, and of course it has three leaves on it. And he was able to use the shamrock as a way of explaining the beauty of the Holy Trinity and how each of those, each member, each person of the Trinity is related, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But that is an indicator, I think, of the way that I should say St. Patrick, was able to build on the great legacy of faith that he inherited as in his training, but then to build that faith among the Irish pagan people. And let's make no mistake, he faced immense opposition among the pagan establishment in Ireland at the time. They saw him as a very direct threat to their power and to their legacy. And it took years and years of patience on the part of St. Patrick to overcome that opposition and to win over especially the kings of Ireland, the tribal chiefs of the time.
Another thing I want to talk to you about really quickly is a letter that St. Patrick wrote. It was pretty poignant and a significant one as well. Can you tell us more about that and how it's relevant today?
Well, at a certain point, we're very familiar with the Confession of St. Patrick. That's sort of a great testament to his spiritual life, to the fact that, as he wrote, I, Patrick, a sinner. But one of the things that's often forgotten or overlooked is a letter that he wrote to the soldiers of a tribal chieftain by the name of Coroticus, who was probably a British tyrant, who came to Ireland and kidnapped into slavery some of Patrick's people, some of his flock. And he sent a letter, it was published widely, condemning the action. For us today, we have a couple things to learn from that. First, Patrick was condemning all forms of slavery, something that we're dealing with today. He condemned as well the kidnapping of people, something else that we're dealing with. I think, for example, of the actions of Boko Haram in 2014, kidnapping schoolgirls as they did. But Patrick was also making another important point, and this goes to the heart, in a way, of some of his teachings in Ireland, and that was the dignity of the human person. You know, Patrick himself underwent a conversion, and in bringing that Christian faith to Ireland, he was also instilling a profound love for the dignity of the human person among the Irish people. In pagan culture, it simply didn't exist, especially the rights for defending women, the place of women in the family. And he condemns at one point, for example, the fact that Caroticus's men divided up women as though they were some sort of a prize. So human dignity that he brought through the Christian faith, the defense of women and their rights, and then, of course, the Christian faith itself.
Now, Dr. Bunson, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that with us. We really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.